at the beach, and we are looking for the artist that all you desert dwellers know and love, Shag. And this must be the place. Look at the door. Ooh. Let's knock and see if he's home. He is.
Claudia?
Hey,
Come
Josh,
on in.
it's great to see you. Wow, these are cool beach digs, let me tell you. Well, as you can see, we are not in Palm Springs, though, with this mid-century sofa and Josh sitting right here. You are the guy that put Palm Springs mid-century art on the map with your stylized depictions of party scenes. And tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, when I first started painting Palm Springs, I was painting what I hoped it would look like, because it was kind of dead. It hadn't been rediscovered yet.
This was like back in the...
Well, my earliest Palm Springs paintings would have been around 1996 and 97.
Yeah.
So a few people were moving to Palm Springs because of the architecture, but it really hadn't happened yet. So I looked around at the great architecture and I thought, you know, I wish we had cool parties and cool people here. And over time, it started happening. Real life started looking like the paintings I was doing.
Really? Seriously? I mean, you think, when we look at them, because being that we are in Palm Springs, we live in Palm Springs, and you are there all the time, we feel like we're seeing our friends in a lot of your scenes, your party scenes and life scenes.
A lot of them now are taken from real life situations in Palm Springs. If I'm at a party and something interesting happens, I make a little note. And I'm like, maybe that'll be a painting.
You didn't start out as an artist, did you?
Well, I was a commercial artist and an illustrator.
Okay.
And working in the record industry and doing kind of the Shag style on the side just for myself, not really
let's stop
seriously.
right there. Shag.
Yeah.
Tell us about how that name came to be.
That name, I came up with that in 1988. I was in a band, we were releasing an album, and I had illustrated the album cover. And I thought it would be unprofessional if people saw that the guitar player had also done the album cover. So I had to come up with a name, you know, a pseudonym for my art. So I took the last two letters of my first name, Josh, first two letters of my last name, Agle. I took the SH and the AG, stuck them together. I liked the word. It had a lot of meanings, you know, very kind of 60s sounding, and that's what I started signing my art.
So going back to that point in time, what years are we talking about that you really started developing the style? And there's an association, obviously, with tiki, too.
Yes. So I first started dabbling in the style in the late 80s. And kind of would occasionally do a piece of commercial art in the style up through the early 90s. And then in 1996, my friend Otto von Stroheim called me and said, I booked you an art show, you have to make some paintings.
I like that process.
So
the pressure's on. Let me see.
The art show was in a little tiny coffee house in Santa Monica, and I got one wall about the size of a bedroom wall. I looked at this wall and I said, I can do 5 paintings. And nobody's gonna buy them, so I looked around the apartment I lived in. I was, you know, I'd just gotten married, and I was like, well, we need a painting there and a painting there, and I thought I was just gonna take home the paintings after the show. So I sat down and thought, what kind of paintings do I want in my own house? And those were the first 5 Shag paintings.
And what were they?
They were all tiki bar scenes, so they were
right.
set in tiki bars. And I took little snapshots of the paintings, showed them around to a few friends, and my friends were like, oh, I like that. How much is that one? So they had basically all sold before the show even opened. And I priced them at $200 and $300 because $300 was the most I could ever imagine myself spending on a piece of art.
And back in the day, that was probably a lot for a coffee shop.
Yeah, that was the equivalent of maybe like $600 or $700.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So let's fast forward then. Tiki sort of became synonymous with tiki.
Probably the first 10 paintings I did were tiki, and then I was like, whoa, I got to branch out. So I collected 50s and 60s furniture. So I'm like, I'm going to paint some kind of mid-century modern styled party scenes. And so that's kind of where it grew from there. And then I was like, I want to paint some Palm Springs themed paintings. I want to paint the California Dream. And to me, the California Dream was a house in the hills with a view of the city over a swimming pool.
Josh, let's talk a little bit more about your process. How does a concept start for you?
Well, everything starts as a series of pencil drawings.
Okay.
So I do a lot of sketches, kind of figuring out maybe characters, animals, if there are animals in the piece, the environment, what the house is going to look like, or the building that it happens in. And then I take these drawings and I basically scan them, compose them on the computer, and then I have to basically redraw every drawing on the computer. This is how I make a print. So it goes from analog, which is the hand drawing, to digital, redrawing it, and then from that digital file, we go back to analog and we make screens, silk screens. And those are burned, you know, using ultraviolet light, and you have this physical silk screen, and then you've got to mix the perfect color and you squeegee the ink through that. So each print is printed one color at a time, it's got to dry, then the next color is printed. So it's analog, digital, analog.
It just seems of recent you branched out to a few other directions with sculptures, with some Vegas, your store in Vegas.
Themed, the Las
Evil
Vegas
Knievel, jumping over Caesars, attempting the fountain.
Yeah, this past weekend we released an official Evil Knievel print. And,
I love it.
I worked with his family on that, and it was a lot of fun. You know, he was one of my childhood heroes.
Tell us a little about your work with Disney.
Well, I first started working with Disney 20 years ago when the Enchanted Tiki Room was having its 40th anniversary.
Tiki.
And I'd heard, you know, people who worked at Disney would occasionally come up to me and say, hey, my boss wants to work with you. And I'd say, like, you know, have her call me because I can't, like, hello, Disney, can I work with you? So after hearing that for a couple years, I finally got the call from somebody at Disney. And I worked on the 40th anniversary of the Enchanted Tiki Room. I designed art and merchandise and clothing, and it was a big success. And so Disney said, what else can you work on, you know? And so I've worked with them for 20 years, and I told them, whoa, I don't want to be a Disney artist. I will do one project with you every year.
Okay, that's fair, yeah. So what are you working on now?
I just had a Club 33 thing released this summer.
That's one of our favorite spots.
Yeah, which for those of you who don't know, it's sort of the super secret VIP club at Disneyland.
Well, let's make sure our audience knows that you have two stores, Palm Springs, North Palm Canyon, and in Las Vegas, right? And is Las Vegas, is it downtown or
it's in the Palms Casino and Resort.
In the Palms, okay, all right. And how, do you own the stores? How does it work?
No, I don't own the stores. My business partner owns them.
Okay.
So I'm the principal supplier to the Shag stores, and I allow my name to be used. So it works great because I can focus on the creative part, and I don't have to worry about the business part.
Fantastic.
And I have such a great business partner. You know, Jay Naylor and Michelle Modern, his wife, are you know, basically they compliment me so well.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah. They really are. They really are. And the last opening that you did there, the print release signing and bronze fins. Yes. So these are sculptures. How? Tell us a little bit about those pieces. And you probably sold out by now, but we'll talk about them anyway.
Well, actually, 20 years ago, I did some sculptures. I did 3 sculptures for my own house because the fireplace had these narrow niches and I couldn't find anything for them. So I made these 3 sculptures, and people would come into my house and they'd be like, where'd you get those? And I said, I made those. Yeah. So we released those about over 10 years ago. We released an edition of those sculptures. And then I thought those were birds. And I was like, I want to do the same thing with fish. So bronze fins is sort of like the complementary sculpture to those, and those are fish sculptures.
And speaking of the bronze fins, here they are. Hey, they look great right here, by the way, Josh. Tell us a little bit about how these came to be.
Well, I made each fish individually out of wood and rope, and then cast them.
Wood and rope?
Wood and rope is actually what those are made of.
Interesting, like macrame or just kind of shapes?
Like glued rope on, had wooden shapes, glued them together, and then cast them, and that's how those fish came to be.
Oh, there's a big tiki here. What? Josh, what is this?
This is something I have to repair. This goes in our Comic-Con booth this summer.
Wow.
We're having a Star Wars themed booth, and this is Chewbacca as a tiki.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you, Claudia. I really enjoyed this.
This is great, Josh. Thank you so much. And for all you out there, it's great to be here with Shag, Josh Agle, and learning all about his art. And do visit, when you're in Palm Springs, the Shag store on North Palm Canyon, or perhaps in Vegas.
Yes.
At your new store. It's only been a year, at the Shag store in the Palms. Is
Yes.
that right? Yeah. Or on your website.
Shag.com.
The World Wide Web. Thanks so much.
Sure.